Hey everybody, and welcome back to Roll with Advantage. And let me ask you something. Have you ever hit like session 30 of your campaign and you realize that your players are still playing the exact same characters they started with? And I don't just mean mechanically. Sure, they get more hit points, they get cooler spells, cooler abilities, whatever. Smites are bigger, awesome. But their personalities, their motivations, their relationships, they're even more static than the guard NPCs in Skyrim. I've been there, staring at my DM notes, thinking, how did I let these amazing characters become walking stat blocks? Because here's the truth. No one in real life stays the same for years after adventure and trauma and triumph, so why should our D&D characters be any different? Today, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 critical evolution moments your campaign absolutely needs in order to transform your players' characters from flat sketches into living, breathing legends that they'll remember for years after the campaign ends. We're going to break down the 5 specific character evolution moments, narrative beats, and mechanical shifts that will create a lot of authentic growth within your player characters. I'll show you exactly how to implement each one, when to introduce them, and how to make sure that they feel earned rather than forced. Because at the end of the day, watching characters evolve might be the most satisfying part of this whole D&D thing that we do. Now, before we dive in, let me be super clear. These are frameworks, not railroad tracks. The worst thing you can do is go to your next session and announce, all right, everyone, tonight is going to be the Origin expansion section because the Roll with Advantage guy told me to do so, all right? He was really handsome, he's really pretty, and he has a very nice voice. He told me to do this, so I'm going to do it, okay? Don't do that, all right? That's going to crash. Thank you for one. Sweetie, I really appreciate that. That was very nice. That is going to crash and burn faster than my first homebrew attempt at a dragon encounter. Or tip for the future if you're just starting out. I know it might make sense to give a young dragon legendary actions. If you're going to do that, make sure it's not against a level 3 party. Yeah, okay. All of these moments, they should emerge organically from your players' choices and the world around them. Your job is to recognize opportunities and to give them space to breathe. Some of your players, they will engage directly and passionately with any of these moments that you put before them, but there are going to be others, especially a lot of newer players or even older players that didn't exactly do as much role player character development in previous editions. Totally cool, understand it, it's not for everybody, but they might need a little bit more gentle encouragement, and that's okay. Every table is different, and forcing character growth never works, so keep that in mind. With that, we dive into our first moment, the Origin expansion. The first critical moment isn't revealing who a character is, it's revealing who they thought they were is incomplete. This is when a character's understanding of their own backstory expands or shifts. It's not about retconning what they wrote, it's about deepening it, showing that there's more beneath the surface than even maybe the player who wrote it realized. For this to work, you need to give a player a chance to discover something new about their origin, maybe a family secret, a misunderstood mentor, a forgotten promise, that doesn't invalidate their backstory, but enriches it. This works because it validates the importance of the backstory they created while giving them new material to explore. So let me give you a personal example from my campaigns in a situation where I did something similar. There was a character by the name of Twigg in the Isles of Iverion campaign. She started shy, nervous, one of those 16-year-olds who could barely order food without having a panic attack. Her player established that she'd been neglected most of her life until becoming a ward of her aunt, who was nobility. But around session 20, I think 20 or 30, I introduced the concept that Twigg hadn't been abandoned by her mother and father on purpose, that perhaps there was more going on there. Perhaps there was something darker and more mischievous, that the only reason that she is alive was because of a sacrifice by her parents. This didn't change who Twigg was, but it gave her player new emotions to explore and new questions to answer. Think about how the first season of a really great TV show often circles back to the origins halfway through. Whether it's The Last of Us revealing more about Joel's past, or even The Witcher expanding on Geralt's training and what he went through. These revelations don't change who the character is, they add to the depth that informs future choices. Let's say you have a player who wrote barely any backstory. Classic fighter, parents died, seeking glory, the end. Rather than nagging at them to write more, try and introduce a stranger who recognizes their fighting style around session, 8 or 12 or something. Suddenly, that player might become more genuinely curious about who their character learned to fight from. You've sparked interest where pressure would have failed. If you're looking for ways that you can connect a player's backstory to the campaign, here's a couple of ideas for you. An enemy recognizes the character's family crest on an heirloom. There could be a childhood friend that appears with a completely different memory of shared events. There could be a character that discovers that they're not the biological children of their parents. Ooh, that's a plot twist. Their mentor's teaching contains hidden messages that they're only now beginning to understand. Or maybe there's a prophecy or legend that mentions details suspiciously similar to their life story. Then we have our Skill Crucible. This is the second critical moment when the character's abilities are tested beyond their limits, forcing growth or adaptation. Now, this is predominantly a mechanical moment where the character's skills, spells, or fighting techniques hit a wall. It's not about failure, it's about the innovation that comes from pushing oneself to the edge. For this to be effective, you need to create scenarios that will challenge not just the character's stat block, but how players use those abilities. When a trusted approach no longer works, creative evolution follows. In the Isles of Iverion campaign again, there was a character, Nalfein who started as a very skilled Echo Knight warrior, but his fighting style was rather unpredictable. And at one point during the campaign, he faced an enemy that could perfectly parry every single one of his moves. So Nalfein had to challenge the tactics that he used entirely. Nalfein's player character started incorporating feints and environmental advantages, eventually developing a completely new fighting style that combined his Echo Knight drow training with the surface world techniques. This wasn't just a mechanical choice, it represented Nalfein's mental evolution away from that underdark conditioning. This is the D&D equivalent of that moment in every great action film where the hero's signature move stops working. I mean, this could be something like John Wick when he improvises with a pencil, or Thor having to fight without Mjolnir. These moments, they force evolution. And I'm gonna be honest, I used to think challenging players just meant throwing bigger and bigger and more monsters at them, but the real growth happens when they can't rely on their go-to solutions. I'm not saying that you shouldn't let them use them. I'm gonna have a whole video later on sometime, I don't know when. If you really wanna see the video, let me know in the comments, because I don't know, I'd just say I write scripts, but then I don't record them. Because I don't know what people want.
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
Let's just say that you have a wizard player who solves everything with fireball, right? Kid probably grew up using a magnifying glass, lighting ants on fire, playing with firecrackers. Who knows? Maybe committed arson in their life. I don't know. Try to put them in a situation with innocent bystanders and flammable surroundings, watching them scramble to adapt their entire playstyle to be way more interesting than any dragon fight, or they'll kill innocent people and they'll burn a city down. But then there are consequences for them. So that's at least some type of consolation. Growth through consequences. If you're looking for a whole bunch of different ways to put pressure on your players to maybe make them change how they use their mechanical abilities at your sessions, you could force a melee fighter to battle in extreme conditions, underwater, zero gravity. Put the party's face in a culture where their usual charisma approach are considered offensive, maybe. Have an enemy significantly counter the ranger's favored enemy tactics. Maybe you could create a magical dead zone where spellcasters have to rely on mundane solutions. Or separate a character from their signature weapon or implement, forcing them to move out of their comfort zone and try something different. Don't remove it entirely, give it back to them in some way, shape, or form, but taking it away for a moment, a session, or two can really cause some fun growth and development for that character. Moving on to our third point, the relationship transformation. The third critical moment is when a key relationship fundamentally changes, redefining how the characters see themselves in relations to others. This evolution focuses on the concept between characters. Whether it's party members, NPCs, mentors, rivals, real people are shaped by their relationships, and D&D characters should be too. To make this work, you do need to create a space for meaningful relationships to develop, and then introduce a catalyst that transforms that relationship. Catalyst could be anything between betrayal, sacrifices, unexpected alliances, or revelations. The key is that it forces characters to reassess who they are to others and who others are to them. To continue to talk about Nalfein and Twigg, they exemplify this perfectly. What started as two strangers, a drow womanizer and a nervous teenager, it sounds like a recipe for a disaster, but it grew into one of the most beautiful father-daughter relationships I've ever seen crystallize over the course of a campaign. The transformation wasn't immediate. I mean, it was almost 100 sessions to get from beginning to end, but it evolved naturally as Nalfeion's protective instincts and Twigg's curiosity led them to learn more and more and more about each other. There were a lot of moments over the course of the campaign where Nalfeien displayed selfless love for this young girl, and eventually, after quite a bit of prying, Nalfeien revealed that his real daughter was executed in the Underdark. She wasn't but a couple of years old. For Twigg, seeing someone fight so desperately for her safety and knowing that somebody had experienced such intense loss and could still find that type of capacity for selflessness and love, well, I think it began to heal a lot of the wounds from years of neglect. I mean, if we look at any character-driven story, from The Last of Us to God of War, the most significant growth comes from relationships changing. Whether it's Joel and Ellie or Kratos and Atreus, the evolution of these bonds drives everything else. Let's say you have a character with trust issues in their backstory. Maybe an NPC ally betrays the party and the player is so affected that they completely rework their character's cynical outlook. You couldn't have planned that specific evolution. It emerged from the relationship's significance. That's the magic you're looking for. Moments where you can fiddle with the dials, where you can change things, edit things, you can do things based off of what the players find important. Like I said at the very beginning, you never want to go into this and say, hey Ryan, I really think that we need to change something about your character. It's not exactly fitting. I think we need to do some development with them. So this is what I was thinking. You never want to have that conversation unless it's dire, right? Unless that's a legitimate problem at the table. And then that's a whole other conversation to have. It's not about how they play the character, it's how they play the game. The magic comes from you as the DM identifying those moments and saying, okay, let's see what they care about. Here's what I'm gonna do to affect them, to get them to change in the story itself. If you're looking for ideas about how to transform player-character relationships in your games, you can use some of these. You could have a rival become an ally when they're faced with a common threat. A mentor falls from grace, forcing the characters to surpass them. A character must work alongside someone who represents what they hate. An NPC the player character's protected grows into a powerful ally. Or a friendship evolves into romance, or vice versa, changing party dynamics. The fourth point is the defining choice. The fourth critical moment is when a character must make a choice that creates a before and after in their personal timeline. This is when a character's beliefs and values are put through the ultimate test, a difficult, consequential choice that has no clear, correct answer. It's not about choosing between good and evil, it's about choosing between competing goods or necessary evils. To create this moment effectively, you need to present a choice that directly challenges the character's established values, forces them to prioritize one principle over another, and has meaningful consequences regardless of what they choose. This key ensures that both options align with the aspects of who they are, and that creates genuine internal conflict. For Twigg, this defining choice came when she had to decide whether to reclaim her noble house, Forrester, accepting the political responsibilities and potential dangers, or remain free of those burdens. Her decision to embrace her heritage and become Lady of House Forrester marked her transformation from this scared little girl into a woman willing to accept power and its consequences. This is what makes games like Baldur's Gate 3 or Detroit Become Human so compelling. In those moments when you're forced to define your character through impossible choices. The growth doesn't come from making the right choice, it comes from making a choice and living with it. I mean, spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3, but I think a moment where this is truthfully, I mean, all of the main companions I think have really amazing moments like this, but the moment after you decide to either kill Cazador and have Asterion let the vampire thralls go free, or if he ascends himself. Either one of those is a crazy choice to make in terms of the narrative and Asterion's development as a character. And I understand the companions that you adventure with in Baldur's Gate 3 and player characters are not the same thing, but you can use similar strategies and similar ideas to encourage growth in your own characters. Let's say that you have a paladin in your games. Create a scenario where they have to choose between upholding their life and saving innocent lives. Whatever they choose will fundamentally redefine their character. You might worry about pushing too hard, but after that session, the player might thank you for creating a moment that transformed their character from a concept into a person. If you're looking for some ideas about how to encourage growth and transformation in your players, try some of these. Mercy or justice when confronting someone who wronged them. Maybe personal advancement or sacrifice for the greater good. Loyalty to family and faction or adherence to personal principles. Revealing a dangerous truth or maintaining a necessary lie. Or saving one beloved NPC while knowing another will die. And then finally, we have our legacy moment. This comes at the end of the campaign, probably during your epilogue or maybe in the few sessions of sort of campaign cooldown before those final moments. These final critical moments is when a character actively shapes their legacy and decides what mark they'll leave on the world. This evolution focuses on how characters transition from being shaped by the world to shaping it themselves. The best thing you can do as a DM, especially one who has a homebrew world, is when you finish a campaign, allow the players to shape and change and create things within it. So in the next campaign, they can see those things, how they've changed and evolved over time. I've been running in the same homebrew world for almost 12 years now.
Damn! I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And there are threads from the very beginning that my players can still recognize, and it makes the world so much more engaging and interesting to them because they've helped build it. It becomes about agency and permanence and the realization that their actions will echo beyond their own story. Now, for this to work, you have to provide opportunities to establish something lasting, forming an organization, mentoring the next generation, creating magical innovations, establishing political systems, or leaving behind teachings. The key is that they must be driven by a character's values and experiences, representing the culmination of their journey. In the Isles of Iverion campaign, Nalfein's legacy moment came when he wrote a book on what it means to be a knight after winning a tournament to earn the favor of the Green Lady, my world's Lady of the Lake. This wasn't just an achievement, it was him codifying everything that he learned from a drow exile to an honorable knight commander of House Forrester, passing those lessons on to future generations. For Twigg, becoming the Lady of House Forrester wasn't just a personal achievement, it was reviving a house that was long thought dead and reshaping it according to her values. Her legacy became intertwined with how she transformed that institution and how people served it. This is what makes the endings of games like Dragon Age or Mass Effect so satisfying. Seeing how your character's actions rippled through the world after the main story concludes. The best campaigns give characters the same opportunity to cement their legacy. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing more satisfying as a DM than seeing players take initiative in creating their character's legacy without being prompted. Let's say you have a player whose character was deeply affected by a war central to your campaign. They might decide to establish an orphanage for children affected in that conflict. It wasn't anything you planned, just something they decided to do based on how their character would want to be remembered. I mean, that is an S-tier player moment right there. Now, if you are a player character or you're a DM and you want to share some ideas for legacy moments for your characters, you could use some of these. You could create a school to teach unique fighting styles or a magical approach. You could reform a corrupted institution from within, maybe writing a definitive text that'll be studied for generations. You could establish a safe haven for persecuted groups, or maybe founding a new holiday or a tradition that honors something important to them that transpired over the course of the campaign. With that, we get to our conclusion. These 5 evolution moments, origin expansion, skill crucible, relationship transformation, defining choice, and legacy moments, they aren't just about check boxes to tick off. They're organic opportunities to transform 2-dimensional character sheets into legends that your players will talk about for years. If you watched the video on knife theory before, you'll think of these moments as when you finally twist those knives your players have given to you. Not to hurt them, but to carve something so grotesquely beautiful and lasting into their player character's flesh. And like I said in the very beginning, this isn't about forcing development, but to create a space where it can happen naturally. A character who ends a campaign in the same mental and emotional place they started, that is a missed opportunity. Not just for storytelling, but for those magical moments that make D&D unlike any other game. In the next video, I'll be diving into Session 0 2.0, mid-campaign realignment. which pairs perfectly with those character evolution techniques. Let me know in the comments which of those moments your campaign has already experienced and which ones for your characters you're most excited to introduce. And if you found this helpful, please feel free to subscribe, leave a comment, like it helps more than you could possibly know. The algorithm does not like D&D content very much anymore. In fact, a lot of YouTubers who do D&D content have decided to stop doing it because YouTube just doesn't push it anymore. So anything you feel like you're willing to do, whether it be a comment, a like, or just watching the video, I appreciate it more than you could possibly know. So with that, thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one.